Maria, a beautiful 16-year-old girl, is seated in her bedroom watching the news. Her eyes are swollen from the endless tears she had shed all day, and she was exhausted. She could not believe that her own mother had not believed her and had instead taken sides with her new husband. After all the years they had spent together, after all the things they had been through together, her mother had still turned her back to her, all because of a man. At first, she did not seem interested in the news, but today's topic suddenly caught her attention. Detective Nkem Okoro was on the news again. This time, she had brought down one of the most untouchable men in Lagos. In that moment, a bright idea crept into her mind, and a smile spread across her face. She had found a solution to her problem, and she knew just the right person for the job. All she needed to do was to make sure she had the right evidence. Detective Nkem was suddenly jolted awake by the merciless buzzing of her phone. She grumbled as she picked her phone. It was 11 p.m. and she became even more annoyed when she saw who the caller was. Musa, what's the meaning of this? I said no calls. My honeymoon just started. I'm sorry, detective, came Musa's brisk response. But we have a situation right now. A girl named Maria just called in. She was raped. Nkem became more annoyed. Musa, you could have very easily taken care of this now. Why would you even feel like you needed to wake me up in the middle of the night during my honeymoon? She is 16, Nkem, and she specifically requested for you. She would speak to no one but you. Nkem sat up straight in bed. She is 16 and wants to speak to me alone? Where is she now? We had the team bring her in. She refused to give a statement until she saw you. Meanwhile, she has been crying so hard. She seems badly shaken. Nkem breathed in. She hated cases like this. Put her on the phone. Hello, came the small, sweet, quivering voice at the other end of the phone. Nkem's heart squeezed tightly. She could only imagine what this girl had been through. Hi, Maria. My name is Detective Nkem. I understand you want to talk to me alone. Maria burst into tears. I cannot trust or stand being close to any man right now. Please, I need you. I need your help. Help me. Nkem's heart went out to the girl. She was so young. It's okay, Maria. I just got married and I'm currently on honeymoon in Calabar. But trust me, I'll be with you tomorrow morning. However, for now, I need you to do something for me. Allow my partner, Detective Musa, take you to the hospital for close examination. It's a very important procedure. Can you do that for me? Maria nodded her head. I suppose I can try. Good, thank you. Musa, have you called her parents? Musa breathed in. This case is a tough one. She claimed it was her stepfather who raped her, but we did not meet him when we reached their home. Her mother is on a business trip in China, but we have been able to contact her. She'll be here by morning. Good. I'll be there by morning too. Just get to the hospital, get the reports. Good night. I'm really sorry you had to cut your honeymoon short, okay? It's alright, Musa. I'll see you in the morning. The next thing that worried Nkem at this point was how to explain to her husband, Kola, that their honeymoon, which had just begun, had to suddenly come to an end. But Kola was an understanding man. He understood the nature of her job, and so he did not make it an issue. even though he was not too happy about it. That night, he booked their flights and they started getting ready for their return trip to Lagos. Detective Nkem walked into the police headquarters at exactly 10 a.m. and just as expected, everyone was waiting already. Without wasting time, she requested to meet Maria. The night before, Maria had refused to go back home because she felt threatened, and so she insisted on sleeping in the police station. By the time Nkem walked into the interrogation room, Maria was ready, seated, waiting. "Good morning, Maria," Nkem greeted with a smile. "How are you feeling this morning?" Maria shook her head, her eyes red and swollen from the tears that would not stop flowing. "I feel terrible. I feel scared." "It's okay, you're safe now. Now, would you mind briefing me on everything that happened?" Nkem asked as she set the portable recorder on the table. Maria nodded her head. "It all started when my mother introduced me to him about a year ago as the man she wanted to marry. I did not feel too comfortable around him, and I made that clear to my mother, but she did not understand how I felt. She felt I just did not like him." "Hold on for a second, Maria," Nkem interrupted. "What exactly did he do to make you feel uncomfortable around him?" Maria looked into Nkem's eyes. "You are a woman, and you would know when a man looks at you in a way that is not appropriate. Am I correct?" "Of course," Nkem said as she nodded. "That's how I felt that day." "I see. Continue," Nkem urged gently. "After that day, I did my best to avoid him, and eventually my mother married him. I could not avoid him anymore since we now lived in the same house. Fast forward to 2 months later, my mother traveled. She went on a business trip and I was alone with him." Maria paused as tears filled her eyes and then continued. "He came to me that night and tried to force himself on me, but I managed to run out of the room and locked up myself in the guest room. The next morning, he begged me not to tell my mother. He promised it would never happen again, and I agreed to keep his secret. But it happened again, and how I escaped was a miracle. As soon as my mother returned this time, I told her everything that had happened. But guess what? She did not believe me. She said I was trying to destroy her marriage because I did not like her husband. I felt so hurt and betrayed. She chose her husband over me. I decided that night to fight my battle on my own, but I failed." Her voice trailed off as she burst into tears. "I failed woefully. I'm so sorry you had to go through this on your own. I know this is hard for you, but I need you to tell me exactly what happened last night." Maria nodded, the tears flowing freely down her cheeks. "He came home from work around past 9 as usual. I was in my room just listening to music, and then he walked in without knocking. I became afraid because I knew that something was about to happen. He never enters my room unless, you know. So he came in, and before I knew what was happening, he pounced on me and tore my PJs. I cried and pleaded with him, but he did not listen. I tried to fight him, but he was too strong. He took my virginity. He took my soul from me." She looked into Nkem's eyes, her voice cold. I wanted you because I believed it's only you that can help me. I see you on the news doing big things, and I believe it's only you that can give me what I want. What do you want, Maria? Nkem asked, still looking at the girl. I want justice. I want him to pay for what he did to me and maybe other young girls like me. Nkem gave her a warm, reassuring smile. Don't worry, Maria. I will do everything I can to make sure I see this to the end. She was about to leave when something seemed to come to mind, and so she sat back down. What happened to your father? She asked. Maria looked down at her hands. He died when I was 6. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. And your mother, what does she do now, and how often does she travel? My mother owns a big boutique and she travels at least twice in 3 months to buy her goods from either China or Turkey. Nkem looked at the girl. Maria, I hope you know that if this case goes to court, you will be required to testify. Are you up for that? Maria nodded. I already have it all figured out. Nkem eyed her quietly. Alright, thank you for this information. Your mother will be here soon. I learned she's on her way already. She'll take you home so that you can get proper rest. You did the right thing by coming straight to us. Thank you very much, Detective, Maria said, trying to smile through her tears. When Nkem got back to her office, Musa was there waiting for her. What do you have, Musa? She asked as she took her seat behind the desk. Musa sat up straight, placing the hospital reports before her. The reports show that there was indeed a sign of forceful entry, which confirms that she was actually raped. We took her bed sheets, which has blood stained, and a torn nightwear. The blood on the sheets matches her own blood. We have a serious case here, and the evidence is glaring. Nkem looked worried. Where is his stepfather? We brought him in this morning, but he swore he has never touched the girl. He insists she was accusing him falsely. Of course, you don't expect him to give in so easily. I want to speak with him, Nkem said as she stood. Folarin sat in the dimly lit interrogation room. He could not believe what was happening to him. He did not for once see all of this coming. The door opened and a woman stepped in. He knew her. Everyone in Lagos knew Detective Nkem. She looked better than she did on television, and he really admired the woman's courage. Only that he never imagined that she would be interrogating him one day. Hello, Mr. Adeoye, Nkem greeted as she took the seat facing him. Detective, I did not do it. I swear, I did not touch that girl. I see her as my own daughter. I would never do that to her, or any girl for that matter. Nkem ignored him. Where were you around 9:30 p.m. last night? She asked bluntly. Last night, I had a meeting with some clients. I'm not sure at what time it was exactly, but I was not even home until around 11 p.m. And even then, she was not home. I called her phone, it was switched off. I did not panic because sometimes when her mother travels, she likes to sleep in her friend's house. I was surprised when the police came for me this morning, accusing me of rape. Rape of all things in the world. Nkem looked at him curiously. She said she sometimes slept in her friend's house when her mother traveled. I'm curious, why is that? Could it be that she is afraid of you? Folarin's face went cold. I want my lawyer. I won't say anything else until I see my lawyer. Nkem smiled. That's a wise decision, Mr. Adeoye. Before you say something that could implicate you. She stood up to leave. I'll arrange for your lawyer to be here as soon as possible. When Nkem returned to her office, she was met with the most shocking sight. Apparently, Feyi, Maria's mother, had arrived while she was in the interrogation room with Folari. Mother and daughter had lost all decorum and were arguing bitterly. What kind of a mother are you? You would believe the worst about your own daughter and take sides with a man. Do you know what I went through while you were away? The furious Maria fired at her mother. Oh, stop it, Maria. Her mother fired back. You have never liked this man or any other man I have been with after your father. So what would you have me think or believe? Maria stared at her mother, her eyes blazing with fury, and then she burst into tears. At that point, Nkem knew it was her cue to step in. She looked at her partner who stood by the corner, watching the whole scene unfold, and signaled to him to take Maria out of the room. She looked at Feyi. I would like to have a word with you, Mrs. Adeoye. Please sit. Feyi took the seat facing the detective. In truth, she was the one most affected by this case. She was standing between the devil and the deep blue sea. Either way, she had everything to lose. Detective Nkem's voice brought her back to the present. Mrs. Adeoye, how would you describe your relationship with your daughter? Feyi shook her head sadly. Maria and I used to be very close. Her father, my late husband, died 10 years ago when she was just 6. So it's been just the both of us. We have always had each other and stood by each other. That is until I wanted to remarry. She hated every man I introduced to her and accused me of wanting to betray her father. Imagine, detective, things started getting bad when I insisted I was going to marry Folari. She insisted that she did not feel comfortable being around him. We started drifting apart and she started seeing me as the enemy. Nkem sighed. Why exactly did she say she did not feel comfortable around him? Feyi was silent for a while. I did not ask. I assumed she did not like the man, just like the other two I had a thing with. Nkem nodded as she took down notes. So tell me, has she ever brought it to your knowledge that your husband was being inappropriate with her? Feyi nodded. Yes. 2 months ago, I came back from a trip to Turkey. She came to me and complained that Folari was trying to force himself on her. And what did you do about it? Nkem asked, her eyes never leaving Feyi's. I scolded her. See, detective, I know my husband very well. He would never do a thing like this. Maria is just being irrational and selfish and is trying to make me choose between the both of them. She does not understand that they are both important to me in different ways. We lost her father when I was just 26. Now I'm 36. I'm still young and I just want to live and be happy. Nkem nodded again. Your point is very valid, Mrs. Adeoye, and I understand where you are coming from. However, we cannot rule out all the possibilities. True, Maria may not want you to forget her father just yet, but have you stopped to consider the facts? For starters, she was examined by a medical professional last night, and there was proof of forced entry, which proves that something actually happened. The blood on her bedsheets matches her own blood, and the doctor confirmed that her hymen was just very recently broken. This means one thing, Mrs. Adeoye. Something happened to that girl last night and she is still very shaken. Are you even aware that she prefers to sleep over at her friend's house sometimes when you travel? Feyi nodded. Folami told me about that and we just decided to let her be. It's all good. That will be all for now. But with the evidence against your husband, he could be going in for rape. Feyi's eyes filled with tears. She could not believe that she was hearing this. Different emotions boiled inside her mind. Had she been careless with her daughter? Had she been blinded by her love for her husband that she had allowed this to happen under her nose? Please, detective, can I at least see my husband? Nkem called in one of the police officers to escort Feyi to her husband, who was still seated in the interrogation room. Feyi sat down facing her husband as tears rolled down her cheeks. Folarin looked at his wife, hoping that she at least would believe him if no one else did. My love, please believe me. I did not touch Maria. I swear with my mother's life, I have never touched her. I have never even conceived the thought. I would never do that to her. She's my daughter too. Feyi could not control the tears anymore. I don't know what to believe anymore, Fola. The evidence is glaring and I cannot believe that you could do such a despicable thing. Feyi, I did not do it. Folarin interrupted. I am not that kind of man. I would never do that to anyone. I know that Maria has never liked me. She's just doing this to tear us apart for good. Can't you see? Feyi shook her head. I don't know, Fola. I don't know what to believe. I need to think. I need to go home and take care of her. She stood up to leave, but Fola held her hand. You think I did it? Feyi looked away. I don't know what to think. Folarin nodded calmly. He did not blame her. She was a mother before she became his wife. And in truth, she needed to be there for her daughter. He left her hand and watched her walk out of the room. It was 5 p.m. by the time Detective Nkem could breathe comfortably again. The case was not as simple as she thought it was going to be. Many emotions were flying around unchecked. Feyi had managed to calm Maria down and the both women had gone home. Maria sat back in her seat as she dialed for Musa. Musa did not waste time to respond to her call. When he came into the office, he made himself comfortable. You sent for me? Yes, I did, Nkem said as she sat up. What do you think about this whole situation, Musa? She asked calmly. Honestly, Musa began, with the condition we saw that girl in yesterday and the evidence we have, that man will go in for sure. So you think he did it? She asked again. What is your own theory, detective? Musa responded with a question of his own. I have not concluded yet, but I think there are loopholes in this case. We cannot rule out every possibility. From what I have gathered, Maria does not want any man at all to be with her mother. So you see, it's not just about her stepfather. She wants no one to come between her and her mother. She manages to chase the others away. But somehow this one was stubborn and went ahead to marry her mother. She became angry and desperate, and you know what they say about desperate situation? Desperate situations calls for desperate measures. Musa did not look convinced. So, you are saying that she did this by herself? Nkem rolled her eyes. This is just an hypothesis. I'm not saying that this is what happened. I'm just painting another picture. This is a very delicate case, and we have to cover every possibility. I can't shake away the feeling that we are missing something very important here. You may go home. It's been a long day and we are all exhausted. I believe a good night's sleep will help us figure out what is missing. Meanwhile, help me find out the clients Mr. Adeoye said he was meeting with last night. I want their names and addresses. I believe Mr. Adeoye can provide us with that information if he wants to get out of here. But later that night, Nkem sat wide awake in bed. She could not sleep. She had that feeling that she was overlooking something very important. No one could say for sure that Folarin was innocent. Looks could be deceptive, and strange things happen every day. But there was something about this whole thing that was not right. The evidence was really looking convincing, but the man insisted he had not even been home until way past 11 p.m. Meanwhile, Maria was so sure that the incident had happened around past 9. She picked up her phone to check the time she had received the call the night before. It was exactly 11:05 p.m. Nkem sat up straighter in bed. If he was not home until 11 p.m., then what exactly happened? Did someone else do it and then she decided to pin it on him? Or was he lying as expected? What if he had indeed done it and then went out to get an alibi, only to return by 11 p.m.? No, she shook her head. It did not make sense. People find alibis when they steal or kill. If he wanted to get rid of any trace of what he did, he would have gotten rid of the bed sheets and they left no trace of blood. Or... Nkem gasped. Bingo! That's it! She squealed a little too loud. It woke her husband, who was having a nice sleep. That's what? Kola asked, still sleepy. Babe, wake up. Wake up, Nkem said, sounding excited. Kola was immediately alert. What happened? Nkem sat facing him. Babe, if a woman has sex, either willingly or forcefully, after close examination of her privates, what do you expect to find to prove that sex actually happened? Kola looked at her curiously. Does this have anything to do with the case? Yes, please, just answer. Okay. To the best of my knowledge, there should be traces of semen in the privates and on the exact place where the act was performed. And if she's a virgin, like your client, you should expect to see traces of semen in there, and the sheets or wherever they did it would usually have blood and semen. I think so. Nkem smiled. Actually smiled for the first time that day. So, you are saying that if Maria was raped, apart from the blood on the sheets, there should also be semen there. And when the doctor examined her, there should have been traces of semen in there too. Is that it? Yes, Kola responded, nodding his head. Wait, you guys did not check for semen? He suddenly asked, looking surprised. Nkem shook her head. It was all happening so fast, and the girl looked like she was in a very bad shape. But I knew that there was something missing. I just couldn't figure it out at that time. The doctor's report did not detect semen, and so did the lab. There was only blood on that sheet, which was confirmed to be hers. Maria is lying, and I'll prove it come tomorrow. Her mother was right. She was only doing all of this to get rid of the man for good. She looked at Kola again. But how did she pull this off alone? How did she figure out what to do? Kola laughed. These teenagers are unpredictable. They only need to surf the internet to get what they want. Ha! That's it! Nkem squealed happily. Her phone's internet search history. She said she had already had everything figured out during our interview this morning. Now I see how she pulled this off. Nkem smiled sweetly at her husband. Thanks, babe. You are the best. Finally, it was almost 12 a.m. when she drifted off into a peaceful sleep. She had a long day ahead of her. Back in her bedroom, Maria lay in bed with a smile of satisfaction. She had so very easily gotten her mother's husband out of the way. She had done her homework well. No one would believe him, and very soon everything would be finalized. It would be just her and her mother again. The thought brought another brighter smile to her beautiful face. Now he would know how it feels like to be alone, and in his next life, or if he makes it out of prison alive, then he would learn to stay away from other people's wives, she said to herself as she drifted off into a peaceful sleep. Nkem walked into her office the next morning feeling extra excited. Musa was there waiting when she walked in. Good morning, Detective Okoro. He greeted her smiling. Don't you sleep in your house? Musa, how are you so early? Anyways, I have news. I'm all ears, Musa responded, taking a seat in his usual spot. So, last night, I discovered that there was something missing after all. If Maria was truly raped as she claimed she was, then the medical report should also show traces of semen in her privates, along with the sign that there was forced entry. Also, the lab results only detected blood on the sheets. There was no sign of semen belonging to anyone at all. I guess my thoughts were right after all, Musa put in. After we left here in the evening, I did as you asked and got the names and addresses of the clients Mr. Adeoye said he was in a meeting with. And since I had nothing particularly interesting to do, I decided to pay them a visit. And so it turns out that there was indeed a board meeting on that day. Mr. Adeoye owns a textile manufacturing company, Falls Texco. I'm sure you've heard of it before. Everyone I talked to confirmed that they had a grueling meeting which lasted for over 6 hours yesterday. Nkem sighed thoughtfully. I did not expect him to know all their names and addresses by heart, except he prepared for this to happen. He did not, Musa put in. We had to put a call through to his PA. She gave me everything I needed. That man is innocent. Maria is lying. I already figured that out. The question now is, how did she do it? And there's only one way to find out. Let's pay Maria a visit. Folare Adeoye's house was indeed proof that he was a wealthy businessman. The house was a sprawling mansion, one of those types you saw in the movies. Feyi welcomed them warmly, but it was obvious that she was doing her best to maintain composure. Her eyes were swollen and had bags hanging beneath them. Nkem felt sorry for the woman. She had to be going through a lot on the inside. Good morning, Mrs. Adeoye. We are so sorry to barge in on you unannounced, but we may need to speak with Maria right now. Is that okay? Feyi's eyes filled with worry as she looked at the both of them. Is there a problem? Nkem smiled. I hope not. I just need to ask her a few questions, woman to woman. Faye felt uneasy, but still she went in to fetch Maria. "Hello, Maria," Nkem greeted warmly when Maria walked into the living room with her pretty face. "Good morning, detectives," she greeted as she took a seat facing them. Nkem did not beat about the bush. "Remind us again, what happened on the night you claimed you were raped?" Maria's eyes darkened. "I did not claim I was raped. I was raped." She burst into tears. "I already told you everything. It's so scary. It's so scary to think about." Musa was disgusted by her acting. He lost his cool. "Cut the drama, Maria. We know you are lying." Maria's drama stopped immediately and she turned to Musa. "What proof do you have? Do you know what I went through?" She started crying again. "You are a man, so you could never imagine. What if it was your own sister?" "That's enough," Nkem interrupted. She looked at Faye, who sat by the corner looking perplexed, but waiting patiently for the outcome. "Mrs. Adeoye, we have a warrant to search Maria's room and gadgets. This is important to the case as we smell foul play." Faye nodded quietly, her heart beating fast. She seriously prayed in her heart that it does not turn out to be what she was thinking. Maria started screaming and acting wild. She was ranting on and on about how everyone had turned against her. It took Musa and the security man at the gate to hold her down while they tied her hands and legs just to keep her calm. At that point, it became clear that she was hiding something. Faye started crying, while detectives Nkem and Musa went into her bedroom. "Get her phone and check if she has a laptop. Go to her search history," Nkem ordered as she started searching the room for any clue. Musa moved swiftly. He picked up Maria's phone from where it lay conveniently on the bed, and she was forced to unlock the phone with her fingerprints. As Musa went through her internet search history, the first thing to pop up was exactly what they expected to find. It said, "How to prove that you have been raped." That particular history showed that plenty tabs had been opened. Maria knew exactly what she was doing, but she had no idea that her plans would backfire. Nkem needed more proof, and so she continued her search, even though she had no idea what she was searching for. And then, just as she opened the bedside drawer, there it was, the most important evidence. It was a pretty pink girly diary. Nkem opened it and was shocked beyond words. In that book, Maria had written down all her plans and how she intended to execute them. From the first date appended on the first plan, she had started making this move at least 2 months ago. The first plan was to make her mother believe that her stepfather had tried to force himself on her when she traveled. But unfortunately, her mother did not buy it, and she became furious that her mother would not believe her when she claimed to be in danger. She decided to move her game to the next level. She had so carefully planned everything, but because she was still a child, there were always bound to be loopholes. The detectives returned to the living room with their newly found evidence. "Mrs. Adeoye, I'll be needing your daughter to come with us to the station now. You can come with her if you want, but we need to get moving now," Nkem said briskly. Faye said nothing. She quickly picked her car keys, and surprisingly, Maria was also quiet. No shouting, no tears. They were gone. They were gone like they were never there. Her face remained cold and emotionless. She knew already that her game was up. In less than 2 hours, Nkem found herself sitting in the interrogation room again, face to face with Maria. Only that this time the situation was different. As before, she set the recorder. "Hello again, Maria. My name is Detective Nkem Okoro Adeniyi. You already know that, of course. This is just for, formality's sake. I'll go straight to my question. I won't ask how you did it. I already figured out that you broke your hymen by yourself. My question is why? Why would you choose to hurt yourself so bad intentionally?" Maria laughed coldly. "You should have figured out that already, since you're the detective." Nkem did not bat an eyelash. "So, this is all because you hated your stepfather?" Maria shook her head. "You are missing the point, detective. My mother does not need another husband. We were doing fine on our own. My father loved her very much, and see how she betrayed him. To make matters worse, I tell her that he tried to force himself on me, and she does not believe me. She took sides with him. He turned my own mother against me." Nkem rolled her eyes. "Why did you choose me?" Maria looked down at her hands and shrugged. "I see you on the news every time. 2 months ago, I watched your press conference on the news and I decided you were perfect to give me the justice I deserve. You are a woman, so I suppose you would understand how a woman like you would feel under the circumstance." Nkem shook her head. This was the most insane thing she had heard in a long time. "Listen, Maria. I am no relationship expert, but I know for sure that your mother deserves to be happy. And what you have done is terrible. If you were up to 18, you would serve jail time, definitely. However, it's up to your stepfather to decide if he wants to press charges or not." Feyi was devastated. She did not believe that her once sweet, innocent girl would go this far just to break her marriage. She was so drained and disappointed that she could not even utter a word or look her daughter in the eyes. What hurt the most was that the girl did not even feel remorseful. She was truly heartbroken and prayed in her heart that her husband could find it in his heart to forgive her. Before the end of the day, all the paperwork was signed and Folarin was free again. Feyi apologized to her husband when they reached home, and Folarin, being the understanding man that he was, assured her that everything was going to be fine. "Look, baby," he said, looking her in the eyes, "I did not expect you to do any differently. In fact, if you had not questioned me like that, I would question your character. You were a mother to Maria before you became my wife. You conceived her and carried and bore her. I expect you to care for her. I expect you to stand by her. So I don't hold this against you, and her behavior is not your fault." Feyi and Folarin reconciled and have lived together happily since then. Folarin refused to press charges against Maria, but Feyi would not hear of it. She insisted that Maria needed to learn that every action had a consequence. Maria was sent to a juvenile correctional center where she would remain for the next 2 years. Detective Nkem and her husband planned another honeymoon. However, this time, she made sure that her phone was unreachable. She wanted things to go just as she had planned, without any hiccups. Hey lovers, thank you for listening to this story. If you are new here, welcome to our community. I hope you enjoyed listening to this story as much as I enjoyed creating it. If you have not done so already, please hit the subscribe button. And to support the growth of our community, give this video a big thumbs up. If you know someone who would enjoy a story like this, do not hesitate to share. Don't forget to leave a comment down below. Remember, like, share, drop a comment and subscribe. Also, if you enjoyed this story, then you'll enjoy One Night of Betrayal. I'll put the link in the description below. Please click on it and enjoy. I'll take my leave now, but I hope to see you in my next video. Bye.